those who are hurting. I'll send my peace to those in need. I'll send my peace to the heart of humanity. And it returns to me. I send my love. I send my love. I send my love.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Talia.
Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. All right. I don't. Martin. Okay. All right. Wow. Well, I really went in deep with that song, didn't you? That was really powerful. Thank you, ladies, so much. I think especially feeling that with everything that's going on in the world, right? Absolutely. So, again, welcome this morning to Om Center for Spiritual Living, all of you who are gathered here in the sanctuary, and also everybody who is joining us online on Zoom and who may be joining us later on at another time. So, we're so glad you're all here. We have been exploring this month the theme of exploring our inner selves, and it's part of an annual theme that we have this year in Centers for Spiritual Living called Living Everyday Wonder. And what is really wonderful, I know that's kind of a cliche, wonderful about the word wonder is that it's an invitation to be curious about your life, about what you're experiencing, about what you would like to experience. And I think that curiosity is one of the most powerful states that we can be in. So I love that we get to come here together and be curious together. So our topic for today is the ultimate fear buster. And not to age myself, but as my husband suggested, what would be the natural thing to say after that? Who are you going to call? Right? And there's actually a trick answer to that question, which we will get to in a few minutes. So as part of this theme that we're exploring this month about engaging with and exploring our inner selves, we are invited to remember that not only am I one with Spirit, right, but Spirit is all that I am. I am that. Wow. That's kind of a heavy idea, isn't it? A little scary even. Yeah, I feel that way sometimes. So, let's see. Martin, if you can do this, since apparently I can't, please change. There we go. All right. And we're going to return to this image throughout this morning's message, and you'll come to understand why. So most of our fears, remember our topic is the fear buster. We're going to get to what that is. But most of our fears are centered in what we might call false beliefs, right? I am not enough. Nobody loves me. I'm never going to be able to do what I want. I am not needed. I'm sure you can add any number of I am nots to that list. And these false beliefs are what cause fear, that emotion, to rise up in us. And that fear creates experiences that kind of support that make us believe that really is the truth. And one aspect of this idea of fear is that it kind of depends on the belief in two powers, right? The power of good, or God, and then a negative power, some kind of power for bad, that we are helpless to get away from, right? Those bad things are just going to happen to us no matter what. what our teaching is in science of mind is that there are not two powers. There is only one. There is only God, and God is good. So what is fear if it is not a power? And I want to invite you to think about it with the metaphor of light and dark. So fear is to love, the love that is God, as dark as is to light. As soon as you have light, you no longer have dark, right? Dark is not a power in and of itself. It is the absence of light. In the same way, right, fear is not an equal power to good or to God. It is simply the absence of our awareness of good, right? The good is never gone. There's no absence of good itself, but there is sometimes an absence of our consciousness of good, our consciousness of God. And so we feel sort of lost and alone in that fear, just as we might feel lost and alone in the dark. So remember that image, because that light is like the light of God that is always within you. All right? So keep that in mind. So sometimes through this experience of fear, through the belief in fear, we kind of victimize ourselves. In our teaching, we talk about the power of our thought to create our experience. And I don't mean to say by that that everything bad that happens to you is because you had a wrong thought, because we don't say that. But, or perhaps better, and we affirm, though, that as you change your thought and you change your emotional response along with those thoughts, you can create a greater and better experience of the conditions in your life. And we do affirm that. So here's something perhaps surprisingly to consider about fear. It might be something to be grateful for because it shows us a place for us to work on. It shows us something that is wounded or unhealed within us. And when we recognize that, we have the opportunity to make a change, to think about it in a new way, and to then have a new experience. So, two primary emotions, love and fear. Love is divine. It is that love that moves through us as God, in, as, and through us all the time. It is a primary element of the divine. It is the truth of our lives and how we live. Fear is an emotion of our small selves, our little selves. I am so glad that Boomer is so relaxed. He knows that what's going on here is good. Right? For those of you online who can't see him, Boomer is a beautiful Mastiff who is joining us this morning. So the key, this is part of this, who you're going to call, the key to dealing with fear is to love it. Ooh, I don't like that. That doesn't sound very good, does it? Oh, do I really want to love my fear? But what loving your fear means is bringing God into the moment that you are feeling it. It means bringing God into the situation or condition that you are in. Because the more that we resist fear, the stronger it gets. But when we surrender to it, when we relax, when we say, okay, God, show me, help me, be here with me, when we recognize that truth, then that truth can set us free. So, Martin, could you pause? So whenever we might be in that situation of fear or gripped with fear, I want to invite you to consider saying something like this. Wherever I am, there is God. Let there be light in me. Wherever I am, there is God. Let there be light in me. All right. So think about keeping that in your back pocket for whenever that feeling might come up again. Because when we affirm that truth, fear will vanish. And we might have to practice it, right? Because we all know practice makes perfect, or better in any case, right? But it requires practice. Okay. So we claim, knowing that God is the source of all there is, and that God is love, that love is therefore the nature of the universe. And there is nothing that can oppose that love. Love, and because love is the energy of God, it simply flows, right? So fear can impede that flow, right? We can be so tight with that anxiety of fear, that tension. We can impede it, but we can never stop it because it is greater than us. It is who we are, and it is always moving in, as, and through us, whether we are aware of it or not. And it's completely unconditional. Isn't that wonderful in our teaching? You don't have to do anything to be loved by God, and you don't have to do anything to be the love that is God, except to wake up, except to be aware of that truth. Wow, he really is relaxed. And so we know that that is, many of us did not grow up with that teaching or idea, did we? Right? We grew up with the idea that we had to earn love, right? We had to earn it through our actions. We had to earn it through our faith. We had to earn it through whatever requirements there were in our faith tradition, in our families. But in our teaching, we take a very different view. God created all of its creation because God loves. And that love can therefore never go away. And when we remember that, then the fear can be dispelled, because remembering is turning that light on. Right? Martin, can you advance? Right? Remembering is turning the light on, is lighting the candle. Okay. And we say that our thoughts and words are creative because we know that those emotions really charge our thoughts. So the more that we can remember this truth and dissolve our fear, we can create with the, what's the opposite of fear then? We say love is the opposite of fear. So with the energy of love that is the highest vibration of energy that we know, that can fuel the thoughts of what we want to be and what we want to experience, what we want to know about ourselves. So there is an old Cherokee story. One morning, an old man was visiting with his grandson, and he told him about a battle of two wolves that is inside every person. And he says, "My son, there is a battle going on all the time within us of these wolves. One wolf is evil. It is fear, it is anger, it is arrogance, it is lies, it is greed and self-pity, it is resentment and inferiority. The other wolf is good. The other wolf is love and joy and kindness and generosity and empathy and compassion and truth." So his grandson thought about this for a little while, and finally he asked his grandfather, "Well, which wolf wins?" And the grandfather said, "The one you feed." The one you feed. Has anybody fed a wolf this week? I've had a moment of feeding a wolf. Yeah, me too. Feeding the wolf. So we've been talking about this idea of love and fear and recognizing who we really are. So the cause of our fear really is in forgetting, right, who we are, not knowing who we really are. And that fear is a tool of the ego, what we call sometimes the false self. We're afraid of being abandoned. We're afraid of being rejected or ridiculed, right, of not being loved. anymore. And a person who is in the grip of fear really doesn't live very much or very well, do they? Because they're feeling constantly insecure, and because they feel constantly insecure, then they attract people into their lives who affirm that insecurity, right? It's just sort of like a perpetuating machine. Ernest Holmes tells us, Martin, could you advance the slide, please? He tells us, if you could see the object of your fear until you really understand it, it would no longer exert any effect on you. You can do this to the degree where you become aware that you are divinely guided and protected. And establish your understanding of this in a definite way. So Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, is here reminding us, right, that we can do this. We have this power. Right? So regardless of appearances, regardless of conditions, regardless of how we are feeling in any moment, we have power. And that power comes from remembering that we are divinely protected, which simply means that God is there with us all the time. And that all that God wants is our good. So the experiences that we have as children often are the source of a lot of insecurities, aren't they? And as children, as most people, we just want to make meaning of our experience, right? And unfortunately, as children, we often draw the wrong conclusion from what we have experienced. Does anybody notice that in their life? Something happened when you were a child and you drew the wrong conclusion. But of course you didn't know it was the wrong conclusion, so you kept going on throughout life, carrying it with you, because of course you imagine it must be the truth of what the situation is, the truth of who you are. And then one day something happens and you realize, maybe that wasn't really true. Maybe there is something else that might be true. And as those awarenesses come up, we can begin to unravel these beliefs or to release them, right? Because beliefs are so deeply rooted, sometimes they have so much power, right? As we experience and feel them, it's almost like the flow, right? We are caught in the flow and we forget that we can step out of that flow. So one thing that we can do is to begin to think about how our own bodies actually signal to us. Have you ever noticed when you're in the grip of fear that there is something going on in your body? There's actually a biochemical reaction that is happening in your body. You might notice it as like a physical sensation, like a knot in your stomach, right? Or sweat on your brow, or even feeling a little nauseous, right? Or you might notice it in your breathing. You might notice that if you're the kind of, fight or flight, if you're a fight person, you might notice that your breathing revs up a little. Or if you're one of the flight or freeze people, you might notice that you stop breathing at all, or it seems like it, right? When any of those signs arise, you might not even be thinking, I'm fearful, but fear is actually at play within you. So what can you do when you notice this? Well, you can actually do something with your breath. There are a lot of different strategies for doing this. There are different patterns of breathing, but engaging those patterns of breathing change what's happening in your body, and it also changes what's happening in your mind. So those patterns of breathing can be 4, 4, 4, 4, like a square. That's one. Another is 6, 1, 6. You can find, so those are the counts, right? Count of 4, count of 4, count of 4, so on. Count of 6, count of 1, count of 6. There are lots of different patterns, and this is something you can experiment with to see what works for yourself. But the key thing that I want you to keep in mind here, and Martin, can you move the slide? Coming back to the light, is that those sensations are a cue. And you can use that cue to remind yourself, just like the light dispels the darkness, our breath which is the very expression of being alive, right? That's how we know we're alive. We're breathing. Our breath can change what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. So, as we release fear, this can allow us to enter into life with more positive thoughts and emotions and to really have a greater experience. Living in love is the inner path of well-being, and it allows us to develop all of those ways of thinking and feeling that are in alignment with love, like peace, like harmony, right? Like integrity and honesty, all things that we talk about as attributes of the divine because they're all in alignment together in the sense of the good. And living in love really brings together a kind of coherence in how we think, how we feel, right? And how we move in the world, how we choose our actions. So here's another strategy for addressing your fear. To go beyond it, maybe we need to recognize it out loud and talk to it. Now, you can do this in your head. You don't have to be saying it out loud, but you can also say it out loud if you're in a space where you feel like you could say that. So what could you say? Maybe you could say, "Hello, fear. I know you are here. And you've been trying to, kind of mess me up. You've been trying to get me to withdraw from doing this great thing. You've been trying to get me to invent a million excuses for why I shouldn't do that thing, right? I know you want me to abandon everything. And I know your power, because I've had some really intense fear. You are powerful. I have really thought of myself as a victim to you. But fear, now I know a secret. I created you. I created you. I brought you here, and I am the one who feeds you. Now, who has power? The person who feeds, right? So, you are the size of all the food that I have fed you. So, right now, this minute, I am not feeding you anymore. I am exercising my power over you right now. Get out of here. So, are you ready to start telling fear where it can go?
Yep.
Okay. So what I like about this is that it's kind of a friendly way of caring for ourselves, right? It's not berating yourself. It's not punishing yourself. It's not saying, "Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I've just, fallen into that trap again." That doesn't really serve us, does it? I want to share a little story about my family. I grew up, as perhaps some of you also did, with a mother who was an Olympic level warrior. She believed that by worrying about everything possible to worry about, she could protect herself and everybody around her. Her fear was huge. We used to joke that her idea of heaven would be to lock all of us into the house and feed us, because then we would be safe. We would be safe there. And, and we had a conflict, my mom and I, when I was growing up, because by temperament, I was actually a pretty optimistic person. But she thought that that was really dangerous. So she worked really hard to explain to me that optimism was dangerous and that I should play it safe by always paying attention to my fear. And it wasn't until I began my journey in the teaching of the science of mind that I began to become really aware of how all of this fear and worry that I had carried around with me most of my life up until that point might be contributing to what I was experiencing. And one day someone said something to me, and I apologize because I cannot remember who said it, so I can't credit them. But they said to me, "You can always choose happiness over drama." And I realized that whenever I was in fear, I was choosing drama, but that I could make a different choice. I could choose happiness. And I had no idea, like, well, could this really work? I don't know. I mean, it sounds so easy. It sounds way too easy, doesn't it? But what I started to do every time I noticed that my mind was going off into the worry zone and, sort of imagining all of the worst case scenarios about anything, I would stop and I would say, wait, happiness or drama? And I would say, okay, choosing happiness. So then I would imagine the best case scenario, whatever the most wonderful thing was that I could think of. And I will tell you that, at least for me, that shift began to make a really big difference in my life. And it didn't change the fact that sometimes I had bad experiences, but it changed the way that I felt during the day. It changed the balance of those experiences. And I really started to notice that better things came into my experience. And let me tell you, I've been using that phrase, happiness or drama, for 15 years, and I still use it because there are still moments where I get worried about one thing or another, something about health, something about someone I love, something about a financial thing, but I know that the truth is bigger than my fear. And so then I can choose happiness or drama. Okay. So we've talked a lot this morning about where fear comes from, false beliefs. We've talked about how fear can grow as we feed it, right? And that we give it more power through our choices. So fear is a kind of ignorance, really. And the great thing about ignorance is that we can learn, we can wake up, we can change our thoughts. So I think what I really want you to take away from our talk this morning is that love has the power to transform. It has the power to transform us as individuals, and it has the power to transform our experience in the world, and really profoundly, fundamentally, the power to change the world itself. The great mystic Rumi tells us, love is the cure. For your pain will keep giving birth to more pain until your eyes constantly exhale love as effortlessly as your body yields its sense. So just take a moment and take that image in. I think it's kind of wild and crazy and wonderful. Love exhaling through your eyes and every pore in your body, right? A wave of love moving through you into everything that is. Wow. So here at Om, we are known for including processes as part of our Sunday experience. And one of the reasons for that is that we are a teaching and learning order. So we know that the way people learn is through processing what they hear, not just by hearing itself. So I want to invite you to take a couple of questions into your week to reflect on. So Martin, could you advance the slide, please? So these are the two questions I'd like to invite you to think about. The first is, what fear can I release from my life right now? What fear can I release from my life right now? And the second question is, what step or action can I take today to remind myself to love myself as the divine spirit that I am? What step or action can I take today to remind myself to love myself as the divine spirit within, the divine spirit that I am? So just take those questions with you. You might journal about them. You might just reflect on them. You might share them with other people. But I invite you to really take the time to reflect on them a little bit. And I would love to hear from you about what you came up with when you did that. So with this, let us contribute to making the world better, knowing that as we change, the world will change, and if we are better, our children, our families, and the world can be better. So Martin, can you advance the slide? I'm going to invite you to join me in an affirmation for this week. And the affirmation is this: I give my love, trust, and joy to the world. Let's say it one more time. I give my love, trust, and joy to the world. Okay. So to close us out this morning, I would like to share with you a poem that I came across yesterday. A poem that to me is really like a prayer, and I think really speaks both to what we've been talking about this morning, but also to what is happening in the world right now. It's a poem by a man named John Rodell. He says, I can't make the world be peaceful. I can't stall tanks from roaring down roads. I can't prevent children from having to hide in bunkers. I can't convince the news to stop turning war into a video game. I can't silence the sound of bombs tearing neighborhoods apart. I can't turn a guided missile into a bouquet of flowers. I can't make a warmonger have an ounce of empathy. I can't convince ambassadors to quit playing truth or dare. I can't deflect a sniper's bullet from turning a wife into a widow. I can't stave off a country being reduced to ash and rubble. I can't do any of that. The only thing I can do is to love the next person I encounter without any conditions or strings. To love my neighbor so fearlessly that it starts a ripple that stretches from horizon to horizon. I can't force peace on the world, but I can become a force of peace in the world. Because sometimes, all it takes is a single lit candle in the darkness. To start a movement. Lord, make me a candle of comfort in this world. Let me burn with peace. Lord, make me a candle of comfort in this world. Let me burn with peace. Thank you. Namaste. And now some more wonderful music with Talia and Sylvia.
And we'll have Boomer singing bass with us.
Really?
Dogs are all about love.
That's right.
Yeah. This is about love.
There's a reason for the sunshiny sky. There's a reason why I'm feeling so high. It must be the season when the love light shines all around us. So let that feeling move you deep inside. Yes, and you really, when your love can't hide, let the healing set your spirit free like a sparrow. Let your love flow like a mountain stream. Let your love grow with the smallest of dreams. Let your love show. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason. Let your love fly like a bird on a wing. Let your love bind you to all living things. Let your love shine. You know what I mean, it's the season.
There's a reason for the stars at night. There's a reason for the sacred sites. It's the season when the light of love shines upon us. So let that wonder take you into space and take you under a sweet embrace, not torn asunder, but held in grace by an angel. Let your love flow like a mountain stream, and let your love grow with the smallest of dreams. Let your love show. You know what I mean, there's a reason. Let your love fly like a bird on a wing, and let your love bind you to all living things. Let your love shine. You know what I mean, it's the season.